Suzanne's Paparazzi Jewelry, 24/7 shopping available. 160920 is the code. Show her some love, like she showed us.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Bo and Joe Show. It's Wednesday night. How's everybody doing? Our first show of 2023. That's exciting. So I'm going to throw it to Bodine. How was your New Year's? And welcome to 2023. I'm excited to see what the new year brings.
Well, yes, it's 2023, day 4, and counting. I didn't do anything uneventful. I had a somewhat of a allergy attack. Felt a little achy, but I quickly took care of that. But I felt better. New Year's Eve was Sunday, so New Year's Eve was Saturday. But I didn't drink any alcohol. I just didn't want to risk it, so I didn't do anything. Mostly got some work done because I have some major stuff coming up. So I just took some Dayquil, some NyQuil, and called it a night.
All right. Well, that's always a positive. Yeah. So I went to a comedy show, which was amusing in some respects. I mean, some of the comedians were very good. One was highly offensive, so I didn't care for that. If you can imagine, I did not care for that. But I made the best of it, and I enjoyed it. So
I think you mentioned you were going to a concert. Didn't you mention that at least?
I don't know.
You went with your girlfriends? Girlfriends. Yeah, you mentioned that before. Yeah.
So it was a last minute thing, and so it was something different to do. I was home by 10, which I like. Fell asleep before the ball came down, and then woke back up right at the last minute, so I could get to see that. So it was enjoyable, and I'm looking forward to 2023. 2022 was, could have been better, right? I mean, I'd like to think about the positives, but there were some drawbacks, as there are every year. So looking forward to a bright, shiny new year.
Well, how soon do we forget the past 3 years have been horrible, but we're better prepared to hang and deal with it. For example, a couple of schools in New Jersey have brought back the wearing of masks because of the 3 things that we're dealing with: the respiratory virus, the COVID, and the flu. And people aren't complaining like they were complaining for the past 2 years, right? So we're making progress because people realize we're fighting 3 things out there versus just 1. So we're making progress, and it's going to be a great year for a lot of people. And so I'm looking forward to it.
Me too. So I think we should, we'll jump right in. I mean, the big story of the week, of course, was Damar Hamlin, and our hearts certainly go out to that young man and his family, 24 years old. It's certainly, of course, we don't know the reason. It could be a fluke. It could be an undetected heart abnormality, but certainly that was a heartbreaking game to watch. The little bit that occurred, and I mean, I was very upset about it, actually, and really has derailed much of my week. And if you see anything, I'm sure you have, looked any of the clips, he just seems to be a fine young man. I just keep thinking about his mom was there, and they showed how he had been taking selfies with his mom before the game, and I just imagine that mom in the stands watching them, giving her son CPR, and helpless, and she couldn't come down. They didn't allow her to come down at first, and then they went to find her. And I'm sure it wasn't because they didn't allow her to. I'm sure that she was in the stands, and they probably couldn't get to her, or it just was a chaotic scene. And I'm sure you share my sentiments, but I'll let you talk about it, and you have a different perspective, I'm sure, than I do, because you've been on the football field before.
Yeah, he and I are fraternity brothers in terms of playing the same position. Strong safety. I played some free safety, but when we're talking about on the college level, so my imagination and thoughts and memories are racing every day. Fortunate for me, I have other things I can focus on, but when there's just a minute of downtime and then you hear something on TV or the radio, for me, it brings back memories of, what if, because that type of injury happens more in hockey and in baseball than it does football. Rarely does an athlete get hit in that exact spot of the chest while making a tackle or getting tackled. So it's a fluke. So they actually have, for hockey and baseball, they have a pad to protect kids, on the 12 and under grade and amateur level, because of those injuries that have happened in those two particular sports. But the problem in professional football, if you're going to mandate something, you're going to get pushback from the professionals and the NFLPA, because as you noticed, professional athletes try to wear as less equipment as possible because it hinders mentally, sometimes it hinders their ability to be athletic. When you see a college athlete versus a pro athlete, and if they were fully dressed, you would see the difference in the padding. And so they're already putting themselves at risk. But specifically for the injury, it was a fluke, right? It has that type of injury has never, or at least far as we know, has never happened before. And obviously, because it's never happened before, it's never happened on TV to that degree. So it's unfortunate. Like I said, we break bones, we blow out knees and all kinds of stuff, rotator cuffs and shoulder blades and neck injuries. But that one was a first for me, no doubt about it. And then obviously having to, do the mouth and resuscitate the athlete on the field. You saw the professional athletes, they'd never seen it before either. So they were absolutely shocked and emotional. And so, yeah, it's a big deal, right? And it's on Monday Night Football where, the ratings are sky high because it's the only game on TV. So a lot of people saw it.
So, yeah, I want to talk about the response a little bit. I think that there was some, it was going around social media that the NFL didn't respond appropriately initially. But I think that was, how would they know what the appropriate response is? I do think that they responded appropriately. I do think that they respected both teams. I think that they were probably in consultation with the Players Association. They didn't know what to do. And obviously, I think that the response was positive. I think that they did the right thing. Maybe they didn't do it in that moment, but I don't think that they knew what to do in that moment. And I give them props for it, certainly. I don't know what your thoughts are, if it was timely enough, but,
Oh, yeah, it was. I don't see any problems, none whatsoever, because anybody can be a Monday morning quarterback. To me, it's a distraction. It's just people who are making comments that probably 30% of them have no idea what they're talking about. So I don't even want to waste my time with the 30%.
Agreed.
The NFL, it's a league. There's protocols to follow. The most important protocol that was followed was getting to the athlete, getting him the health care he needed, getting him off the field when it was the proper time. So all of that, which is the most important, was done. Until we hear otherwise, all of that was done correctly. In terms of, I think what you're talking about is calling the game, delaying the game, right?
Right.
First of all, again, does the refs make that decision? No. Right? The NFL makes that decision in conjunction with the NFLPA. There's a players association involved in this. So all the stakeholders have to convene and get together. What makes people think that all of the stakeholders are actually sitting down in their living room or in their media room or at the NFL office watching the game? So the NFLPA rep could have been in traveling from one spot to the next, because the NFLPA representative could have been in Dallas over the weekend and now catching a flight to somewhere else, right? So yeah, people, again, this is part of technology. Everybody's got a microphone in their pocket. So I haven't even thought about it, because again, to me, it's just Monday morning quarterbacks. Everything, as far as we know, based on the information that I've heard and read, everything was fine, because you can't just say, put it this way. Let's keep it simple, Joe. Most people don't know what it takes to put on a football game on TV and on the radio. They have no idea, most people. So for those people who don't know, they don't understand how long it takes to delay or postpone or say, okay, we're going to decide at this moment to call the game. It's a process. What's the first process? Players go to your separate locker rooms. They did that. The head coaches, who are responsible, they have a meeting. They said on the field, hey, my guys are too upset. Your guys look upset. Let's just get them to the locker room. And then by that time, the wheels were in motion with the NFL and the NFLPA. They're all on the phone, right? I even heard that night on the local radio station, because I had ESPN on and my local radio that covered the game through the national, what is it? Oh my goodness, I'm forgetting.
NPR?
No. It's like Radio One or something. It's one of the national radio stations, radio networks that covers, the major games. iHeartRadio is a good example. And so they were talking about, they actually aired the conference call that was made, and how many people were on that conference call? You literally had hundreds of people from different departments on a conference call with Goodell, Vincent, the VP of Development and Operations, Troy Vincent, former Eagle, So you had all the big wigs, and these folks are having conversations. Okay, how do we do this? How do we do this? How do we do this? So they make those decisions. You can't, and then think about the fans in the stands. You can't just all of a sudden make a decision in 5 minutes when there's other things that need to be done. Like, don't you have to wait till the ambulance is off the property? Right? You can't call a game with 60,000 or 80,000 people in the stands and the ambulance is still on the field.
True.
Right? Because if you do that and people start heading to the exits, what is that called?
Chaos.
Just chaos. So yeah, people don't have a clue, meaning 30%. The other people are like, well, let me think about this. Okay, I get it. But 30% of the people, they're ignorant, they're mutants, they don't have a clue.
Well, speaking of ignorance, let's also get into those who are blaming T. Higgins, right? How short-sighted and narrow-minded and how harmful and how just horrific that is, right? This young man, another young man who had, it could have been anybody on the field. It was just a fluke incident, if that is the injury that he's sustaining, or if it was, something hereditary, but it certainly has no, T. Higgins carries no blame for that. And for anybody who is trying to shift that blame to him, I mean, he's receiving death threats. It's just horrific. And just people who have nothing better to do with their lives, who have no sense or sensibility or compassion. That's a part of the story. There's always, just such a negative, every story has just it's just toxic. That's a toxic response. And I don't even want to give it any too much airplay, but I do want to, certainly give our support to T. Higgins and point out that and of course most sane people realize that that young man has nothing to do with this whatsoever.
Yeah, he was doing what he gets paid to do, which is run the football, catch the football, and then turn up and run the football. That's his job, right?
And he wasn't the one tackling anybody either. I mean, I don't even understand the rationale behind it. It wasn't like it was he picked him up. I mean, there was another incident this week, and I think it was in the Vikings game where there was a personal foul where they actually picked up and body slammed the receiver. It had nothing to do with that. Anything in that vein. So. It just goes to show you the stupidity of 30% of the people that are making comments just don't have a clue, right? The receiver catches the ball. His job is to advance the football, and Hamlin's job is to tackle. Right.
It's just the tackle he made, right? The tackle he made, just unfortunately, the shoulder pad or the helmet hit him in the wrong spot. Exactly. It's just that simple, right? Yeah. It rarely happens. That's why it's called, in this case, a fluke. It's not even an accident. It's a fluke incident because it's not an accident because they're playing football, right? So it's just one of those fluke injuries that occur, but this one was in an area where the heart is, and then the effect of that, and then the results of that, and then again, people just want to pile on and make comments. They don't have a clue.
And it's not even just the location. I don't know if you read any of the medical jargon or accounts. It's not only the location. It has to occur when there's a specific rhythm. So it's really almost, I'd say what, a 1 in a million, 1 in a billion. I mean, I'm just speculating, but it just was like the perfect storm of incidents. So. So just imagine your heart rate is already up and beating higher and faster than normal because you're an athlete and you're on the field and you're playing. It's just like, how many times have you tripped That's not 1 in a million. That happens every day.
Right? So
Yeah.
that's the point. It's one of those things. You don't trip every day, but you trip often. We all do. It depends on if you're walking on a flat surface. You've been walking through a neighborhood and the sidewalk isn't even where it's supposed to be, and all of a sudden it's just a little trip, right? Just a little trip. Your foot caught that edge of that cement, and then but you catch yourself, right? In this incident, right? In this particular situation, that misbeat caused that heart to, what's the word, defuse,
Defibrillate.
right, or miss a beat, and then when it missed the beat, boom, it caused an interruption to its pattern, is the way I'll say it, and then it stopped.
Stop.
I mean, so again, people, oh my goodness, oh, it's amazing. But
So-
again, this is the world we live in, Joe.
I know. It's horrible.
Everybody's got a camera and everybody's got a phone, a microphone in their pocket, and Twitter at their fingers, or text at their fingers, and their mouths and thoughts aren't filtered.
So we actually
That's
have George on the sidelines. Hi, peeps. Hi, George. You're welcome. You're welcome to hop on, George. I don't know, Chris. Do you want to send George the link? Yeah. So it's just it's a tough conversation, and it almost puts, of course, it puts into perspective. And I think that there was, some sensible people who reminded us that although it's a profession, it's also a game, and I think that everybody who makes a living based on professional football, being broadcasters, everybody recognized that the most important thing in that moment was this young man's life. And I don't know if you saw the reports today. Luckily, there's some improvements have been made. He's demonstrated some improvements, although he's still in critical condition. It looks like things are going the right way. And so, we're all hopeful that he makes a full recovery, and if he wants to pursue football in the future, then, I hope that he does. And I think the other bright side of the story is, I don't know if you had seen that he started a not-for-profit. His mother owns a daycare, and he wanted to contribute to a toy drive. And initially, there was $3,000 had been raised. The initial ask was $2,500. He was hoping to raise $3,000, and now it's raised well over $5 million at last I heard. So
yeah, it's over 6 now.
So that's pretty amazing, and hopefully, his family was blessed and felt so touched and by that generosity. I think that people like to do things because they probably felt helpless. Like, how can they help? What can they do to show their support? And that's what they did. So,
well, I was having a conversation with a slightly older gentleman than me, and and I said, yeah, listen, we're part of what we call the new media in terms of podcasting, right? A lot of the media tends to say that we are divided as Americans. In some respects, small d in divide, not capital D divided, a small d. In a small way, that could be true. But Americans are just generous people, caring people, empathetic people. And that is an example of Americans, especially the people in Buffalo. How about what they did, right? I mean, not the people, is it Cincinnati, right? They played in Cincinnati. The people in Cincinnati showing up to the hospital, candlelight visual. They didn't have to do that, but it goes to show you there are great people in this country everywhere who understand the seriousness of it and don't need to try to get clickbait by making bonehead comments. Matter of fact, when George gets on, he was the one that informed me of the Skip Bayless and Charlie Kirk comments. And, because I try to read things that or get to things from folks that I know and trust and feel good about their commentary. Some people have a shtick, some people have a thing that they do. And then some reporters just straight up report based on the facts. So, yeah, I mean, he's a great kid. Did you see what Mike Tomlin said about him?
I did not.
Well, the kid is from Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Mike Tomlin's known him since he was 12 years old. Apparently, he's been to Pittsburgh football camps. It's, the little kid football camps that they would do for kids. And so the kid also decided to stay home and play at Pitt instead of go to Notre Dame and some of the other bigger schools. So he's known the kid for a long time. And he said he's a quality kid, quality young man. So, the support he's getting is obviously makes his mom and family feel good, because it could, he could be T.O. and people would be like, oh, T.O. deserved it because he's a jerk. You know what I mean? So it's good that he's a good kid, because it keeps the disinformation and ignorance away from him.
And I think I want to speak to that point that you had spoken about, divided America. And of course, there's, divisiveness and division. But I think at the core, the media likes to portray and sensationalize the negative, right? We spend so much more time on the negative than we do on the positive. And because that's what sells papers, although we don't sell papers anymore. That's what brings in the ratings, the viewers, obviously. Because already now, the story's already, down below, what's going on in Congress, what's happening in Idaho. This story has lost its allure in some respects. It's buried now down at, at the 6th or 7th story, the improvements.
Unless you follow the sports networks and sports channels and the sports page, but yeah, I got you. Yep,
so I think I agree with you that most people are positive, generous, and have compassion and caring, and we just don't see enough of that. So I think that this event really, like you said, the people in Ohio really came out and really demonstrated, a sense of humanity. And it was great to see that. Absolutely,
no doubt about it. Like I said, I tried to focus on the things that I needed to do, and that what's going on with me because of what I have, going on next week. But I'm telling you, it's very tough when this is in your face. And as a former athlete, you start thinking about, man, I remember making this tackle, and if I had turned the wrong way or hit him the wrong way, or he would have got the best of me first, could that have happened to me? And what would my mom have done, and sisters and siblings and family? Well, I mean, it just goes through your mind. And but this is the game we play. So, and people also have to understand that when you're in a frame of mind of competing, that's a different mindset than sitting in the stands and watching on TV.
But you're talking about competing. I mean, but this type of injury could happen while you're wrestling with your kid, on the playground. It's, it can happen anywhere. So it's
a heart attack or a missed rhythm, missed beat. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they're in basketball. I don't know if you remember Hank Gathers.
No,
right?
No.
Yeah, it happened on TV. He was playing basketball, and he had one of those conditions that they now test for. They test the athletes now for those who have a genetic problem with their heart, because it gets to a certain point where it could just skip a beat and then it'll shut down. Well, there was a basketball player that it happened. He passed away. Right? They were giving him, the mouth to mouth and chest compressions on the court. I bet you George remembers. Hank Gathers. You remember Hank Gathers? You remember that situation? Oh, see, I'm giving my age away. But there was a basketball player. It happened. He passed away right on the basketball. Well, eventually he passed away in the back, but he dropped right on the basketball court because of the heart and the rhythm skipped a beat and boom. So, but like I said, that particular hit, that particular contact happens in baseball and hockey more than any other sport because of the hockey puck being as hard as it is and the baseball being as hard as it is. Imagine, right? You're getting George, you're a coach. You coach. You take it from here. What happens?
And especially baseball, where you have no padding. There's no padding in baseball. You don't. I mean, they barely have the new arm guards now, so that players aren't getting drilled in the arm or the shins. So they've got guards for those now. I mean, outside of that, you can take. We've seen baseball pitchers taking baseballs hit right back at them, right in the face, right into the eye socket. We just had that not even 2 years ago. And, you can just catch the ball just wrong, or the ball can be approaching you at just the right angle and turn around and catch you right in the nose, right in the mouth. And, because the ball takes a funny hop like that. The puck, you're right. The puck is the same way. It will come off of anybody's stick, because sticks are not all designed the same, or the curvature is done a certain way that each athlete likes to have it, and it's not all the same, and they will come up off of those sticks a funny way, and they can, even though they have primarily now they have the full face shields, they can still come up in there, and it's getting hit into the side of the neck. A skate, the biggest fear is when a skate blade comes up and a player just might be in the right spot at the right time and slice them right across the neck. I mean, that is one of the most scariest thoughts that I know a lot of ice hockey parents have. It's just like that one is one that, everybody fears. And you just keep your fingers crossed. But that has happened a few times where it's the skate has just caught somebody in the neck and right in between the padding and the helmet at the same time. And it's one of those freak situations.
Absolutely. No doubt about it.
All right, well. All right, so let's move on to something happier. How did we fare on the game? So we can segue into that.
I thought you said happier.
Well, real quick, before we get into the NFL, we'll finish up the college sports, college football, the playoffs last week. Remember, the 4 scenarios that I posed was after the games, it would be in the championship game. Number 1 scenario would be Georgia versus Michigan, which would be number 1 versus number 2. And then number 2 scenario would be Georgia versus TCU. Number 3 scenario would have been Michigan versus Ohio State. And then the 4th scenario would have been TCU versus Ohio State. And of course, the number 2, as usual, usually the number 1 doesn't make it. It's usually number 2 or number 3 that makes it. And here we have it, Georgia versus TCU. And I'm going to tell you right now, TCU is impressive. So the game is next Monday night. Who you got? I got Georgia.
Nope. Ohio State proved Georgia is a fraud. Ohio State proved it. TCU is probably going to be your national champions.
That's what I'm thinking.
So we got G and Crispy Bacon going for TCU. Who you got, Joe?
I'm going to go with Ohio.
You mean Georgia?
Ohio's not
I
in.
mean Georgia.
Well, I have to go for Georgia only because I grew up with the Georgia-Florida game, and my first college player that I fell in love with was Terry Hogue. He was a strong safety. He actually played Rover for Georgia. So I'm going with Georgia. So
Plus, TCU is an underdog. So
yeah, but they ain't an underdog with athletes. Them boys can
No.
ball.
yeah,
Them boys can ball. They're faster, believe it or not. They're faster than Georgia. Georgia's just big and fast. These guys are just outright faster. So now, in terms of last week, week 17, first game was Dallas Cowboys versus Tennessee. We all was on Dallas, and we all got a victory.
Mm.
How about that? How many points did Dallas score, Chris? Did they blow them out of the water?
I think it was close. I think it was like 27-16.
27-13.
Okay.
So
Hold up. Do we have a closet Cowboy fan over there that she knows the score?
no, I'm not a closet Cowboy fan, but I am up on some of the scores.
Okay. But in terms of the games, the final tabulation is Crispy Bacon 10, me 10, G 9, and Joe 8. Now,
Have a good week.
Joe, you were actually leading for a while, and then you went on a losing streak, and then Crispy Bacon and I came back up. But I'm telling you, this isn't over because they're going to play that Bills Cincinnati game.
I don't think they will.
You don't think so? Chris thinks
No.
so. I mean, G thinks so.
Yes.
I think
They
they-
said that the game would not be played the rest of this week. They specifically put that out there that it would
Right.
not complete this week.
Right.
Week 18 will be played as normal. And then the next following Sunday night, I believe they will play the Cincinnati Buffalo game then. And the playoffs all get shifted a week back because the NFL has that buffer week that usually is between the 1 week between the playoffs and the Super Bowl. They always usually put the Pro Bowl in there. That week gets eliminated and the playoffs just run straight through the last week of the playoffs. And then guess what? They got 6 days right into the Super Bowl. And that's what I think.
I think they're going to use.
You
I think
can't.
they're gonna
You
use
can't
the
make
win
it a
percentage.
tie.
That's what
You
I've
can't
heard.
make it a tie. You can't make it an expunged game because you're already into the first quarter. And the records have to the records dictate if the Chiefs lose this week and Buffalo wins, there is a tiebreaker set for who gets the first seed. It also has big implementations because the AFC North, if the Bengals win, they get the NFC or the AFC North if they also win this weekend. So they would need to have that win over Buffalo. There's a lot that game rides on. I think if this was two teams that were out of the playoffs altogether, I think they expunge out the game. But because of the implications, I think they will have to still play and continue this game in that bye week session.
What do you think, Chris?
I think they're just going to keep it as a win percentage and go from there. Both teams have 16 games and see what happens.
I think they're going to consult the Players Association. I think it's going to.
Oh, they have to. No doubt about it.
I think it's going to depend on what happens. Let's say this young man, which I don't want to say it, but let's say something he doesn't recover, and I think there's a lot of extenuating circumstances and factors. I do believe he's going to recover. I think things are going to improve, and I think the game is going to be played. I don't know the exact scenario the way that George is detailing it. I don't know if they're going to give up that bye week. I think that you know,
But the NFL doesn't have anything, and so that's why I'm saying there's nothing going on. So that's why I think they have no issue in pushing and losing out that extra space week, because all it usually is the Pro Bowl week.
right.
And I already could figure out they'll just push the Pro Bowl, the what is it now? The flag football Pro Bowl, the flag football Pro Bowl. They could put that after the Super Bowl
So
because it's not going to have any implications.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Well, Joe, if and when they play that game, you want to keep your pick of the Bills, because if the Bills win, you end up tying George, and Crispy Bacon and I still win, but you will win. You will add another win victory to your total. So
All right, well, I definitely still want to keep the Bills. I'm still on the Bills, especially now, but I'm always going to stand by the Bills. I'm a big fan. My father's home team, my father's team. So.
Well, there were some great other than the Bills Cincinnati game and that horrific injury. There were some really good games.
It was.
Right? Jacksonville pulled through.
The Cardinals Falcons was tight. The Dolphins Patriots, that was a good game. I'm shocked the Patriots pulled that off.
Yep. The Eagles lost.
I know, that was amazing. By 10 points too. I was surprised at that. The Lions, I expected them to win, but that was a blowout, 41-10.
And one more loss by the Eagles and one more win by the 49ers, and the 49ers get the bye week. Oh, sorry.
49ers, that was a tight game. 49ers, Raiders, 37-34. It was a good game.
Yeah, that one almost went into overtime.
Yeah. I was shocked about the Packers-Vikings game. I expected the Vikings to win. The Packers just blew them out of the water. That was a tough game to watch.
Listen, I told you, I'm losing I'm losing all faith in Minnesota. They just don't know how to win a tough game. They beat the people there. Sometimes they don't even beat the teams they're supposed to beat. They're just so schizophrenic. It's ridiculous. I want to root for Minnesota all the time, but I can't.
What happens, they're oftentimes make it, they're in the playoffs, but they just can never pull it off. They fall apart in the postseason. I mean, and this has been going on for decades. It's not even just the last couple of years. They just can't, regardless of who's in there, they just can't seem to pull themselves together in the postseason.
Well, my love for Minnesota takes me back to Fran Tarkenton and the Purple People Eaters.
Yeah.
When that, back in the day when they were just balling, right? Minnesota was just as good in terms of, showmanship and winning games like Kansas City and the Cowboys and the Steelers. Back in the day, Minnesota was, they were up there. So, there's a little infinity love for the Minnesota. They just keep, they just let me down for the past 10, 20, 30 years. They've been letting me down.
They really have. And
remember, they had Brett Favre as a quarterback. They had Randall Cunningham as a quarterback, right?
Yeah.
They had a number of players that come play in Minnesota, and they just couldn't pull it off. Randy Moss was in Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
I know. I was just going to say that. I went out to Minnesota to a game, and Randy Moss was on the team. I mean, and they did win that game, and they have they've had some impressive players in their history, but for whatever reason, they just cannot pull themselves together in the postseason.
They've got some Hall of Famers.
Yeah.
In that organization. So, but I'm afraid that G is right. The 49ers is the hottest team in the league. And next to them would be Jacksonville, and the next to them would be Kansas City. So let's start picking for next week so we don't have to rush through it. We can seriously take our time and think about it.
Okay.
But let me give you this list again, because I went back and checked the healthiest teams versus the least healthiest teams. And let me tell you something. There is something to it, right? There is something to it. So the healthiest teams this week are Kansas City number 1, Green Bay number 2, Cincinnati number 3, Pitt number 4, and my Jags number 5.
Mhm.
The least healthiest teams: Tennessee, Arizona, Rams, Denver, and then wrapping it up at number 28 is the Pats, New England. And let me just tell you, all of the teams that was the healthiest last week, the top 3 teams won. And all of the teams that were in the least healthiest, team 32, 31, and 30 lost. Team 29 and 28 won. So the Patriots is one of those teams. Just letting you know, the Patriots still win when they're not as healthy as their competition. Right?
That's a good thing.
So,
All right, I'll start reading off the games. We have the Chiefs Raiders on Saturday. I'm going with the Chiefs. I think
They're ranked.
Going with the Chiefs, right?
Yep, they're ranked number 1 on the busted up score. There's a new stat out there called busted up score. If your team's busted up or not, right? So they're number 1.
Then we have the Titans Jags. That's going to be a close game.
Yep, but hold on. Nobody.
Okay.
G,
Right. I'm just assuming everybody's taking the Chiefs.
G, you're eating your dinner because you had practice tonight. Who you got?
The Raiders.
Oh my God!
There's a reason why. No matter what, Mahomes just happens to have a problem there, and it's in Vegas. I am going to take the Raiders.
Okay.
All right.
Kansas City needs this game, though.
I know.
Yeah.
You know, remember the playoff seeding is not set yet. They
know.
need this game.
I know.
So it's not like they're going to rest their quarterback. Mahomes is definitely going to play.
But I know, and I know Mahomes. He's got the good times, and in Vegas, he doesn't bode well when he's betting in Vegas. He just doesn't have it there.
Well, I know
in Vegas, it's not at home.
I know based on history, when you bench your starting quarterback and the backup comes in, he does well. Stidham did really well, even though they lost. But they usually lose their second game, usually, right? I know the quarterback for 49ers is bucking that trend, but I'm going with
Tom Brady. So did Tom Brady.
Yeah, I'm going with Kansas City. Who are you going with, Chris?
Kansas City.
All right.
And we got the Titans Jags. I think that's going to be a close game.
Tannehill hit the IR yesterday.
Both teams need this victory badly. Both teams. And it's in Jacksonville. You know who I'm going with.
Yeah, I'm going with the Jags
Under
too.
prime time light.
Jags.
Jaguars.
We're all on the Jags. Yeah, baby. Prime time. You're right. Prime time.
Then we have the Ravens Bengals. I mean, I'm assuming this is a misprint saying the game's at 1 a.m. I assume it's at 1 p.m.
Yep.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, the Bengals have had an emotional week. I'm still going to go with the Bengals, but I think that's going to be a tight game, right? They're number 1 and 2 in the AFC North. I'm going to go with the Bengals, but I could see it going either way.
Well, the Bengals and Baltimore need it. Baltimore needs it twice as bad, but I'm going with the Bengals too. Chris, who you going with?
I'm going to go with the Ravens. I think the Bengals will kind of be still shaken up a little bit.
I agree.
How about you, G?
Nope, Bengals.
Alrighty.
All right,
What's the
then
next one?
Next one are the Browns and the Steelers.
Woo!
That's
Don't forget, the Steelers are number 4 on the healthy list. They're a healthy team. They're on a roll.
Really? You're going to go there? Really?
I'm
Really?
going with the Browns.
I'll go with the
You go-
Steelers. I feel like
Because
I feel
I
like they have a
already
better
know
quarterback.
the situation that Pittsburgh needs everybody above them to lose, which I believe is probably going to happen. Which, of course, means that Pittsburgh would probably beat Cleveland and get into the playoffs again. And Tomlin would look like a hero again. I really can't stand Pittsburgh. But I just got this weird feeling, yep, Pittsburgh's going to win.
Who did you pick? Joe, who did you pick?
I'm going with the Browns.
You going with the Browns?
I just don't care for the Steelers. I can't pick them.
I'm not big on the Steelers either, but I'll pick the Steelers.
Well, listen.
I had to pick the Steelers.
Joe, no one cried more than me as a kid watching my Dallas Cowboys as a kid lose to the Pittsburgh Steelers. But sometimes you got to get over it. The Steelers are on a roll.
I know.
It's not that big of a roll. It's a biscuit. They are not on that big of a roll. It's a Triscuit biscuit. Come on. Don't give them that much credit. They're getting their butt whooped in the first round anyway.
All right, what's the next one?
And we have the Vikings and the Bears.
Uh-oh.
I'm going to go with the Vikings. I mean, the Bears aren't looking great at all, but
Well,
they're
listen.
not in the playoffs.
I'm not
They're
a confident in the
backup.
Vikings.
Hold on. The starting quarterback for Chicago is out.
Yeah,
So I'm going with Minnesota too.
me too.
And if they let me down in this game, I'm done.
Until the beginning of next season when they'll do well, and then we'll discount them again in the playoffs. But
Who you got, Chris? Chris, who you got in this game?
Minnesota.
G?
Minnesota.
Okay.
and then we have the Patriots and the Bills. I have to go with the Bills.
Yeah, that's going to be an emotional game at home in Buffalo.
I'll go
Yeah, I don't
Buffalo.
see the Bills losing that.
Nah, I don't see it either.
I don't see the Bills losing that at all.
I think they'll play tough. They got
You
extra
go-
motivation.
Yep. So we're all on the Bills. It sucks for New England because they really have a chance to get in, but they're facing something that usually doesn't happen. So that crowd is going to be jacked. The team's going to be jacked. But they have a good coach who can, in terms of Bill Belichick, who's going to get them focused. But that Zamboni is coming downhill. There's nothing they can do about it. So, yep.
And we
What's the next
have the Jets, Dolphins. I'm going to go with the Jets.
Really?
Yeah, Tua has been placed back on concussion protocol for the second time. They just announced it a few hours ago. So
And
Tua
what
is
about
out, and
what about Bridgewater?
Teddy's out too? So they're going with the Rook. So yeah, unfortunately, this is a loss for the Dolphins, and see you guys next season.
I'm going with Miami. I'm sticking with Miami. Who you got, Crispy Bacon?
I'll go Miami.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Then we have the Bucks and the Falcons. I'm sticking with the Buccaneers.
Yeah, the Bucks said they're still playing starters. I don't know exactly how long. There's no reason for them to be in more than a half. I think this defaults to Atlanta just based on, the starter's going to be benched after halftime.
I'm going Tampa Bay. I think Brady can maybe lead them to a good lead. Maybe.
Yeah, I don't see Brady playing after halftime of this game. So.
Right.
Atlanta is actually favored in this game, but I'm going with TB because the backup quarterback for Tampa Bay is a veteran, and the starting quarterback for Atlanta is that rookie from Cincinnati. Even though he's good, I think Tampa's defense is going to pull it out. So, who you going with?
How can you say that with a straight face? How can you say that with a straight face? You know that defense is Swiss cheese. How can you say that?
Who are you going with? Who are you going with?
I went with the Falcons.
Okay, everybody else, we're on Tampa, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we have the Panthers and the Saints.
Woo.
I'm gonna go with the Panthers.
The thing is, who cares?
It's in New Orleans, and New Orleans wins. The Panthers fall.
I'll go New Orleans. Both teams are eliminated.
Yeah, I'm going with the New Orleans.
Okay.
So, Joe, you're going with the Panthers?
I'm going with the Panthers.
Okay, you like the kitty cats. I got it. Okay.
I am a woman, so. Then we have the Texans and the Colts. I'm going to go with the Colts.
That's another who cares.
This is the actual who cares. This is where there are backups upon the backups. I already saw that the Colts are starting Ellinger, yeah. So yeah, boy.
I'll go Houston.
I'm going with Houston.
Yeah, I'm forced to go with Houston. Yeah.
Whoever wins probably gets the first overall pick.
Brandon saying if the Jags and the Lions get in, I pick the Jags versus the Lions Super Bowl. All right.
Joe, who you picking in this game, Houston or Indy?
The Colts. I'm going with the Colts.
Okay.
And we have, I think I know the answer to the next game, Cardinals 49ers. I'm going with the 49ers.
49ers. Yeah.
Kyler Murray, they turned around and said was going to undergo surgery, so
it was successful.
You said he already had it?
He posted a picture.
Okay. Yeah.
Was it his Achilles or his ACL? Which one was it?
ACL.
Okay. Okay.
And all right, then we have the Cowboys and the Commanders.
With their third string quarterback.
Heineke has gotten his spot back. It's a game.
No. They're starting Howell.
No. He's going to get playing time, but Heineke is starting. NFL radio. No. NFL radio announced it earlier. They said Rivera says Heineke is going to get the start, but they will put in the third kid. He will get some playing time this week. Basically, all right, so they're looking at what they got because they know that they can disperse Carson Wentz, even though he's due at $24 million next year, but there's no negative to the salary cap hit.
Listen, Washington's a dumpster fire. Who you guys picking?
Cowboys.
Washington.
I'm actually going with the Commanders too.
All right, you guys are going to regret that. Next game.
Spoiler.
We got Rams.
Who are you taking?
Cowboys.
The Cowboys.
Well, all right.
I can't root for Washington. No.
And then we have the Rams and the Seahawks. I'm going to go with the Seahawks.
They need it.
I'll go Seattle.
Yeah, Baker Mayfield can't play in Seattle.
They need it because there's still a chance they can get in, so they need it. Seattle needs this win.
It's Seattle.
Joe, next game?
Giants, Eagles.
Oh.
That's a tough one for me, but I think I'm going to go with the Eagles.
I'll go Giants.
I haven't heard anything. Who's quarterbacking this week?
I haven't paid attention.
I hadn't seen a change yet. If
I hadn't
it's
paid
still
attention.
Gardner Minshew,
I'm going
I'm
New
going to
York.
take the Giants. I'll double down. I'm going to take the Giants. If it's Minshew quarterbacking, I'm taking the Giants.
Well, put it this way: if the Giants lose this, if the Eagles lose this game, there will be smoke coming from the city of Philadelphia. Trust me, and you'll be able to see it from like from the satellite station up there in between the moon and the Earth. Because I'm telling you, that will be crazy. That will be three losses in a row? No.
Yeah.
Woo.
Not what you need.
Brandon's saying the 49ers win, the Eagles lose, and the 49ers are going to
Get the bye week.
They get the bye week. Yep. And you don't want 49ers no one wants to go to San Francisco. If you're an East Coast team, you don't want to be flying all the way across country playing the 49ers in San Francisco. I'm telling you. You don't want to do it.
I feel like the bye week hurts, though.
Not with all those athletes on their team. No. Them boys are stacked.
And then we have the Chargers and the Broncos. I'm going with the Chargers.
Chargers. But the Broncos have been playing better.
Yeah.
I'm going with the Broncos. Come on, G.
It is in Denver, too.
It's in Denver, Mile High.
And the Chargers don't have anywhere to go up or down.
They don't need it.
I'm gonna go with Denver. Yep, I'm gonna go with Denver.
Adam's agreeing with Chris. Hi, Adam. He's saying, honestly, the bye week sucks. You lose momentum, and he would rather be a team that sneaks in. All right.
And the 49ers need a couple of bodies to get healthy, though. Yeah. After this week, they could use it.
And then the last game is that's a Sunday night game. I think this is a toss-up. It's the Lions and the Packers, but I'm going with the Lions.
Yep, me too. I just can't wait to see Aaron Rodgers with his scowl at home. We had a chance. Yeah, whatever. Mr. Arrogant last week. No.
Listen,
Detroit number earlier.
I really want to pick Detroit. I want to pick Detroit.
So
I know Aaron Rodgers. He's a bad man. I should pick Green Bay, but I'm picking Detroit.
Somebody from the network is saying it's probably Adam. ESPN's 7 hours ago stated Wentz was not starting.
That's correct.
So.
Oh, okay.
Oh, Wentz is done. His career is done. It's done. Yeah. He's going to be relegated to a backup quarterback, or nobody's going to take him. He's been on 3 teams. It's over. As a starting quarterback, over. Who you got, Chris, for Detroit versus Green Bay?
Detroit.
So we're all on Detroit. Okay. Aaron Rodgers might make us feel bad.
Well, even when he always makes me feel bad. So
did we get all the games? Did we miss any?
I think we got them all.
Yep, we got them all.
All right, so it's going to be another interesting week. It's the last week of regular season play. Adam, we know. Adam loves Aaron Rodgers. That's my boy, he said. But, I respect his talent, but I just cannot warm up to him as a person. He's just so arrogant, I think is the key word. And I find that he's dishonest, and just don't like him. But I respect that you do. I know the Barber brothers are big fans of. Jay's not as big a fan of Aaron. He likes the Packers, but he's not necessarily an Aaron Rodgers fan. So I respect that too. But all right, so we're going into the last the last regular season week, so that's exciting. I think our closing thoughts are all going to be with Buffalo Bills and Damar Hamlin's recovery. I'll throw it to you, gentlemen, and for your closing thoughts. What are you thinking, George?
Just keeping my fingers crossed that Damar wakes up here in the next 24 to 48 hours breathing on his own. That's what we all are praying for, and that's primarily what we all want. Yes, like I said, I know we're all still, trying to go through all the steps of moving on and everything else with football, but I know that this is definitely still going to be something that everybody in this country, at least, and across the world, are going to be paying attention to. So I know that it's still going to be said and talked about until he does wake up and he is breathing on his own.
So I will say that I have read that he was on 100%, ventilator was breathing for him 100%, but now that's been reduced to 50%. So there has been some improvements there. So I think that that's, something to be hopeful for. I do want to, Adam's comment is you have to have a little bit of an ego to play football. True, but you don't have to be an ass.
Well said. Well said. Well said. That's right.
So I'll throw it to you, Chris. What are your thoughts going
Yeah.
into this final week?
No, it's going to be a good week, but hopefully, that Buffalo Bills player wakes up, is breathing on his own, and that he gets well, and speedy recovery is, as quick but efficient as possible.
Great. All right, Bodine, you get to close it out.
Well, Happy New Year, everyone. Wishing you a prosperous and healthy and safe 2023. Let's go. Get them. Great season. I will have next week the final tabulations based on all the picks that we had and the sheets that I kept. So we will have an overall winner next week because I will have time to do that after my big presentation on Tuesday. So I have time to do it on Wednesday. And may the best team win.
There you go.
All right. Well, my check will be getting to you probably midweek, right before you do the final tally. And Brandon, I'll let him close out the show. Adam Barber knows all about having an ego. He means ego. Good closing thought. So goodbye, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. We appreciate, everybody who tuned in. We had Brandon, Adam. Good to see you here, and we appreciate your support. Thanks, Chris, behind the scenes, of course, and on camera. We always appreciate your assistance. George, thanks for hopping on. And as always, my co-host, Bodine, it's always a pleasure, my friend. You can play us
V's up.